I got my political education about Puerto Rico, I didn't know about Lolita Lebrón. I didn't know about Betance, Abisu Campos, and I didn't know about our Afro-Taino roots. And that's how my firstborn, by the way, got her name Taina. She might have been named Mary. Yeah, because we didn't know who we were, where we were going, what we were doing, what we were about, right? And she actually was the first baby in the Young Lords Party, I have to say that. And actually she was supposed to be a Taino, but I figured, I'll change the O to A, Taina era. So I was thinking that the other thing was that in the Young Lords Party, the challenges that we faced as women, we learned about what it meant to be a young woman, how you value yourself, how to deal with passivity. I think that was the biggest one. How I was a thinking person and not a sex object. So because I was in the defense ministry, I was able to travel to all the different branches. So I saw for myself with my eyes the stories that I've experienced in my neighborhood as a young Puerto Rican woman that was the same story in Connecticut, in Newark, in Philly, in a Bronx, in Longwood Avenue, in a barrio, La 116, in a Caño, in Puerto Rico, in Aguadilla, and I was doing security for everybody. That's how I was going all around. But I experienced the poverty, the police brutality, the inequality, the injustices in our community. We were also very young, like Denise said, the average was 17, but we had a young woman by the name of Emma. I think she was 14, 13. We had people as young as 15. And what I learned about that, we took care of each other, we protected each other, we worked as a collective, and at that young age, I learned about the collective and its relationship to the individual. When we marched in the streets, we were no joke. We marched, we had that discipline that we learned in the party. We marched in formation. I learned the discipline of working in concert with my sisters and brothers, achieving a sense of the strength as a human being. So what it meant for me as a young woman to be in the Young Lords is that this experience gave me a drive and really helped shape my mission in life. I was lost. I'm here today with you because of the Young Lords Party, and I was rescued, you all, from the streets. I was rescued from the drugs, from prostitution, from alcoholism. So, sí se puede y siempre pa'lante.
Can you tell us a little bit about why the issue of sterilization became an important organizing tool and subject in the organization?
The issue, well, I want to say thank you all. Personally, and from, I think, the hearts of all of us up front, your being here is a validation that the years that we dedicated were not in vain. Your being here also validates that you're hungry for more knowledge, that you want to make a difference, that there's social change that needs to be done. And I think that that is awesome, because for many years I wondered, what did I do all of this for? If we're losing ground, so many areas, if there's so much diversion from the reality for our peoples. I admired the Young Lords because we were international, although we defended Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans. It was all inclusive. We fought against machismo and passivity because that was all inclusive. You cannot fight for socialism and you cannot fight for freedom if you are oppressing anyone. Now, sterilization, because I'm looking at the numbers. We have a big group here, and there's a lot of people still waiting to come in. Imagine what it would have been if they had continued to sterilize our people, and they didn't just sterilize in Puerto Rico, they sterilized in 31 states in the United States. But behind this program called eugenics, right? I'm saying it right. EUGENIC, eugenics. That program was sponsored by the government, paid by wealthy businessmen, Procter & Gamble's. The Haynes Corporation, the guy that James Haynes, those people decided that they needed to have a Betterment of Humanities League to make sure that they can control the population. Now, if the minority, quote unquote, is the majority, then how do you make sure they stay a minority? Is to make sure there are no more babies. Genocide. Genocide is what was being practiced from 1920 to the late 60s under a Florida law, which was implemented in 31 states. In Puerto Rico, 1/3 of the women during that period of time were sterilized under a lot of bamboozling and lying and conniving. Oh, mija, coge la operación, porque con la operación te sacan el útero, pero te lo pueden reemplazar, te pueden dar un uterus transplant. You go get that operation because you can get a uterine transplant. Hey, honey, we're just going to tie your tubes. Don't worry about it. We can untie them. And you know what happened? 30% of the women in Puerto Rico were sterilized. In America, a judge figured over 100,000 to 150,000 women each year were being sterilized. I was 17 when I was approached. And I was told, little one, your ovaries are not working very well. Your uterus is not working very well. You should have a hysterectomy. I looked at this 36-year-old doctor, and I said, what if I told you I'd castrate you? He jumped back and grabbed his nuts to seriously, this is real. He jumped back, grabbed his nuts to protect himself. And I said, that's your reaction at 36. I'm 17 and never had a child. How dare you? You want to clip, you want to freeze, you can do that, but you're not taking everything out. I'm not having it. But a lot of people didn't understand the language. A lot of people, Native Americans, African Americans, a lot of people didn't know the truth. I was already in the Young Lords. I joined at 16. I already had knowledge that I needed to arm myself to say, you get castrated. You ain't doing it to me. But people had no idea what they were getting into and what it would mean for their lifetime. Because what happened then is that you got hysterectomy, you married someone who wanted children, you couldn't give it to them, they leave you because you can't give them children and they want to have their heirs. And machismo being very prevalent during that period of time, I want to make sure that my children get my money. I want to make sure my wife can provide me children. It broke a lot of women's hearts. Now, I'm going to give you some statistics because I think it's important to put some light into it. In an article that Iris wrote in the Pa'lante, she talked about sterilization. Capitalists manipulate. Imperialists are manipulating today to control the world. The multi-billionaires, Billberries, that's what they call them. I always confuse names. Dumb suckers want to reduce the population. Now, how do you think they're going to do it? We need to wake up, and we got to share this information outside. But Iris wrote, capitalism wants to control the population. And in so doing, these capitalists have chosen to deny us the right to abortion. And the only means that you can make sure you don't have babies is through sterilization. So you're between the wall and the spear. You don't want to have babies unready for your babies, but you can't have an abortion because the law prohibits it. You can't have contraceptives because the church says you can't. The church for I don't know how long has been saying, even today, don't use contraceptives. It's anti-God. And women, you know, Latina women particularly are very Christian, very church-going. So the population is saying, oh, shit, I can't use contraceptives. The man is saying, I'm not going to use it because it doesn't make me feel good. I have to feel that rubber. I want to feel it natural. And hence, pregnancies. And in those days, the pregnancies were not treated. If you needed an abortion, it was illegal primarily. And when they were being done in the hospital, they were being done as butchers. Carmen Rodriguez died in Lincoln Hospital. I had a relative get an abortion through salt solution, be sent home to go through the cramping, be running back because she's ready to abort, and they don't attend her at Lincoln Hospital, which was known as the matador, the butcher. The fetus dropped in the middle of the floor. Now she's traumatized because she got raped. And she has to see this baby that she didn't want to see die, but she couldn't take care of it because it was a memory of a rape. She had to stand there and see that on the floor because we needed to make sure that community control was had in the community of its institutions. Community control. It's time to cut it. I'm sorry. Soy eléctrica. I got a gift for Gab. What can I tell you?
Denise, can you talk to us about revolutionary machismo? And how that posed a contradiction in the organization?
Yeah, the Women's Caucus, I assume. Yes, revolutionary machismo. The oxymoron of the century. Y'all are aware already that the Young Lords had a 13-point program and platform, which we adapted with certain changes from the Black Panther Party 10-point program and platform. Now, when the program and platform was written, it was written by brothers, okay? And so, being good revolutionaries, they decided that it would be a very good idea to include our sisters. And we will put a point in the program for our sisters. That was really nice of them, you know? And they made it point 10, you know, down toward the bottom. We were sort of a squeezed-in afterthought. And let me read you this, all right? And we had to memorize this stuff because you had to stand there and recite the program and the platform, you know, and all power to the people, all that stuff, you know, pa'lante, whatever. So, point 10, and we want equality for women. Machismo must be revolutionary, not oppressive. Y'all know we did not write this, okay? All right. No, this was very serious stuff, and we had to study it in study hall and recite it. Under capitalism, our women, you know, not our, we belong to them, you know, have been oppressed by both society and our men. The doctrine of machismo has been used by our men to take out their frustration against their wives, sisters, mothers, and children. Our men must support their women in their fight for economic and social equality. I don't even understand the grammar in that, okay? And must recognize that our women are equals in every way within the revolutionary ranks. Forward, sisters, in the struggle. Come on, put your fists up. Okay. All right. So, you know, we used to attend PE class. That was called political education class, where we would discuss these complex political thoughts. And then we would get up very early in the morning. I'm talking about what the sisters had to do. We had to get up very early in the morning, go to the free breakfast program, pick up these kids, feed these kids, take these kids back. Then we'd come back. And if you were a cadre, you went out and you sold newspapers, and maybe you had to sell 100 newspapers and whatever, because that's how we supported the organization. Then you came back, and then maybe you put in some time collecting pee. You went around and collected all the little children in East Harlem's piss, because we were testing them for lead poisoning. And then maybe you went back and you did if you were part of Iris's education cadre, you went and you did community PE, and you were teaching people in the community. And then you came back and you had to go to study hall. If you had done something bad, you were punished. You went to study hall and you had to read Lenin and write it out 40 times, you know? And then by that time it was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you fell out, and then you got up the next morning and you started work all over again. And, you know, and then you had to deal with, if you were a woman, you had to deal with brothers. Okay? And I'm not going to tell you stories. Okay? So, people's perception of the Young Lords, which was designed on the sort of theme that was picked up from the Panther Party. And how many of y'all ever seen the picture of Huey in the chair with the spear and the, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. And Panthers, you know, black berets, black leather jackets, and they're dudes. So our theme was developed the same way, only it was purple berets and combat boots and army jackets, you know, the Che Guevara style. And again, these very male, and if you were a woman, you had to get the combat boots and the jacket and stomp around too. And because we were into machismo. And so these themes, except you're doing all this work, you're second-class citizens in the organization. I happen to be lucky because they didn't know what to do with me. And Marlene Cintrone, are you here? Where is Marlene? Okay, Marlene will tell you. Marlene is from the original Sociedad de Aviso Campos. She was then at Old Westbury College, where the Lords came together. And there were women from the very beginning, except we didn't want to get into that raggedy car and drive to Chicago. We had sense. We stayed on campus. But we get left out of the picture. So during this period of time, we're dealing with the contradictions of dealing with men in the community, men in the cadres, and we're trying to be good revolutionaries, except something's not clicking. It's this equality for women, and how can machismo that allows men to beat their women, machismo that allows men to rape women in the community, machismo that allows women to be second class, that's not revolutionary, like what Olguie was talking about. So we were also, at the time, influenced by our political surroundings. So you had a black nationalist movement and a black arts movement, which were about having my beautiful black sister, Amazon Queen, on a pedestal over here and have lots of babies. And while we go out and we are the guerrilla African fighters. So the Lord's Central Committee, and I don't know why they took me. I think it was because I was the officer of the day. I was a non-commissioned officer, like a sergeant. I could give out discipline. I could tell brothers, hit the floor and give me 200 push-ups. They didn't like that, but anyway, I did it. So we go out to visit into this black nationalist place, and it's all brothers and me in my combat boots and my jacket, and this African brother comes out and, you know, does the handshake and whatever, and he shakes everybody's hands, and he goes down the line, and then he gets to me, and he realizes I'm a woman, and he snatches his hand back. And we're standing there, and then these sisters come in African garb on their knees. On their knees. They crawl into the room where they have baskets of fruit. And they're doing this fruit dance, crawling. And then they back out of the room. And I'm standing there going, I don't believe this shit. This is who we are going to make an alliance with? So I walked out. And I caught hell because I'm embarrassing the Central Committee by my behavior, and so they gave me discipline. I ain't gonna talk about that. I went back to the apartment. We lived in collective apartments, and I lived there with several sisters, and we were having meetings. We had just started having these meetings of women to come together. And I said, y'all ain't gonna believe this shit. We're gonna have fruit baskets and crawl on the floor. And am I lying? No. They flipped. What? No, you have to understand, this is political ideology. We have to discuss the contradictions between the nationalist movement and the revolutionary nationalist movement, and then feminism as it, no, I can talk that political stuff. But the point is, we were appalled because this was not what we had in our heads. We had been reading about revolutionary women in China, revolutionary women in Vietnam. We were reading about some of the history out of Puerto Rico, Mariana Bracetti. We knew powerful women from the civil rights movement. We knew there had to be something more than separating us off and making us beautiful Taína princesses or something. I don't know. The point was that we had to come together and we decided that, one, we were going to write position paper on women. We were going to demand, not ask, but demand that the platform be changed, that the program be changed, and that we march together with our brothers as equals. We were going to demand that they struggle against their machismo and not turn it into some bullshit about it being revolutionary. So, okay. This is the caucus. So, I mean, out of the Women's Caucus, we called ourselves the Women's Caucus, and we had meetings, and at one point in time, we were told that we couldn't even have any meetings. They tried to shut us down, and they decided that, and we defied them. We said, we're going to meet. We met on Sundays, because that was the only time we had from our You Are a Young Lord 25 hours a day. That was what we said, 25, not 24. And we busted our asses working. And we had that little space on Sunday that we would get together and meet. So they told us we couldn't meet. And they took us in the defense ministry, who were martial artists. And they took us in where we used to do training in martial arts. And they told us, okay, down on the floor, give us 100 push-ups. Down on the floor, give us another 100 push-ups. Down on the floor, give us another 100 push-ups. And we did it. Then they stood us up, and they threw punches to here. I got hardcore belly from then still, muscles. They punched us, and we looked at them, and we didn't flinch. And we kept on meeting. Finally, we worked with some of our younger brothers who understood, and they looked up to us because we were like the older sisters they had, or their moms, or whatever, and it was men and women who decided to demote the Central Committee. It was men and women together who decided to enforce our demands. And so this was the change we made because of the Women's Caucus. And out of that Women's Caucus, we generated a gay and lesbian caucus. Out of that Women's Caucus, we generated a men's caucus. So the final thing I want to read to you is the change, because it's very important. No more machismo revolutionary crap. And it was moved up to point number 5 from 10. We want equality for women. Down with machismo and male chauvinism. Under capitalism, women have been oppressed by both society and our men. The doctrine of machismo has been used by men to take out their frustration on their wives, their sisters, their mothers, and their children. Men must fight alongside of sisters in the struggle for economic and social equality, and must recognize that sisters make up over half of the Revolutionary Army. Sisters and brothers are equals, fighting for our people. Forward, sisters, in the struggle.